Challengers was started almost 15 years ago by two cisgendered, straight, middle-class white men
Yes.
who grew up reading comic books that constantly catered to them. So there was never a question of...
Because most of them were made by cisgendered, straight,
middle-class
white
men.
men.
Right. So we never worried about finding books that represented who we were because everything was for us.
Yeah.
In this day and age, the diversity of characters and creator is not only great to see, but welcome.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of places to go. But as those two people, we welcome anybody who wants to read comics.
Sure.
In the Midwest, the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. I still approve, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Happy New Year, Dow.
Happy New Year, Patrick.
As a treat for this New Year's episode of Contest of Challengers, we have to record it even earlier than normal, way back in December of 2022.
We're going there after this? Is that what you're saying? Because this is the New Year. It's New Year's.
Yes. Well, if you're a patron, it could still be New Year's Eve, which, if you're listening to us on New Year's Eve, hey, thanks for ending the year with us, or starting the new one with us.
You know if you're listening to this on New Year's Eve that next year can only get better.
Well, anyway, it's much earlier in the week for us than normal. And by much, I mean a day. Mm-hmm. And a day because we will be busy at a live wrestling event tomorrow night.
It's a very full last couple days of 2022.
Did you hear that you can appropriately wear your Ace Austin shirt?
Is he going to be there?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not just Ace Perry?
Correct.
Double aces?
Yes.
Okay. Well then.
However,
I don't know if it's going to be visible to him, but I'll wear it.
Ace Austin is replacing Josh Alexander.
Ooh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. Josh Alexander can't make it.
That's too bad.
That's fine. I mean, what is the end of a year without adjustment?
Yeah, I suppose.
So I was recently looking back through our Instagram feed to get a feel for what the start of 2022 was like for us.
Okay.
And legitimately the first post of the year was Gina and I clinking champagne glasses because it was a Friday.
Well, Friday's a drinking day.
New Year's Eve was a Friday, so we were drinking champagne. And then by the time I reposted her post, it was New Year's Day.
Okay.
So we started the year drinking, and I'm okay with that because that is exactly how I'm ending this year.
Sure.
But yeah, so I'm looking through the Instagram feed, and we started doing our video recommendations in August, early August.
Okay.
So we've been doing them for 5 months, right?
Okay.
And I've gotten a good idea of the kind of reach they have, basically. What we can expect for customer reaction, viewer reaction, I should say.
Okay, sure.
And what I've learned is a couple of things. One, if Molly Jane is in the still image, it gets more views than if it's just you or me.
Oh, internet.
Right. But if we do something, and by we I basically mean me, particularly stupid in the video, like throwing comics around,
sure,
running back and forth, having a Robin doll that Santa didn't get you, things like that, get more customer interaction.
Okay.
Like more comments or more interactions.
All right.
So it seems like the formula is just put Molly in the video and then have me do something stupid. However, Instagram recently changed how they do videos.
Okay.
And I don't know if you were familiar, but they also had a video component called Reels.
Nope.
Where you could do a reel and put that in your reel page.
Okay.
And a reel is different than a video posting.
Why?
Only it's not anymore. They've combined every video you make is now a reel. I don't know what that why they did that or what it means is
Being
that
on social media sounds like being in the mouth of a lion where the teeth keep changing what they are, but they're still devouring you.
they're still devouring you. So, like, it's a little bit different for the uploading process, but it's only been 2 weeks since they did this, since they've done this, since they had
Since it's been done.
did it. And in that time, our 2 reels have tripled in view stats.
Is that like bots? Is that like actual organic someone's watching
Well,
it?
I think it's just the way that, because a reel is an Instagram proprietary thing, I think it's how they surface it or how they
Okay.
shove it in people's faces.
Cool.
Like, I don't know if the people that are seeing it are people that follow us. I assume it is, because we have, several thousand followers, but that doesn't mean people see our videos.
Okay.
And as I talk to the youths, that's basically code for Haley and Andrew.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. What it turns out to be is stories are the way to go now.
Okay.
Because a story comes up across the top. It's kind of relegated to the people that you watch stories of the most. So if you were on Instagram, which you would never be,
No.
but if you were, and I watch your stories all the time, the algorithm would know that, and then when you have a new story, it would bump you to the front of my line.
Okay. This all sounds horrible, by the way.
If you
I don't know if anyone can hear it in my voice, but hearing about this stuff, how it operates.
Yeah.
I have oriented my life strenuously to avoid learning any of this. So what you're giving me right now to round up my 2022 is like, hey, you know that hell you've been trying to avoid? Well, here's how the pitchforks work.
Here's how the flames are getting hotter.
Patrick, no. But anyway, please continue.
And also, if you just post a post, you're at the mercy of the algorithm, and often it refreshes while you're reading a post. So it disappears, and you have to be like, where did that one go? And even though stories or reels now fade, actually, you know what? I should double check to see if they stay on the reel page. But stories, wait, no, sorry, that's a different thing. Stories disappear after 24 hours.
Okay.
But Andrew showed me that they, in fact, stay in your account, so I can still go back and watch stories that I've posted. You can't, as a viewer,
Okay.
but I still have access to it.
So you still have access to your own memories,
Yeah,
but not other people's memories.
correct.
Okay. That sounds suitably Orwellian.
And honestly, like, it's a way to make people feel like they're going to be missing out if they don't log into Instagram at least once a day.
Okay.
Because you may have missed things. And people are very aware of who watches their stories and who doesn't, because it shows you.
Okay.
You have to go looking for it, but it shows you. And
I'm sure that doesn't make people extra neurotic.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not.
Jesus.
I don't.
This is an optional thing for humanity, and yet no one treats it that way. Oh my
Nope.
God! People are willingly doing this to their own brains.
I definitely don't
Oh my God!
post a story and then obsessively look at it to see if specific
my
people have
God.
watched it or not. You definitely don't do that.
Oh my
Nope,
God.
that wouldn't be me at all.
I don't like any of this.
So it's an adjustment. Look, we've been doing a lot more story posting than regular posting.
Sure.
But sometimes if there's an element in the story that I want to keep, I will double post it.
Okay.
Like I'll post it as a story and then as a regular post, so it's still in the feed. Like the idea of the story is kind of eliminate. Everybody used to do at the end of the year their top 9, which is a 9-panel grid
Okay.
of your most liked posts.
Okay.
But with the emphasis on stories, that doesn't matter, and your most liked posts are maybe not the most seen or interacted things.
Okay.
And we didn't even do a most liked posts of like the top 9 of last year or this year, because I feel that a majority of what we do is also in stories. So looking back to our feed is mainly Tuesday nights where it's the video,
Right.
Tuesday late nights where I post the photos of the wall,
Sure.
which I don't like doing those separately, but you can't do videos and still images at the same time
Okay.
in a post. Yeah, so I wish there was I would rather not have to do 2 posts, but
Sure.
also it's different the way you can expand a post to see detail of an image, but you can't do that to a story.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, especially now when
Weird
you
is
add,
a word for it. That's true.
when you add things like Hive or Mastodon or Post. Post is the newest social media platform to get in the game.
Cool.
Yeah. But those are things that we need to be aware of to try to reach people, and we have had a lot of people, and you can attest to this as well, say that they're buying a book because we talked it up on one of our videos.
They have mentioned that. That's true.
And that is 100% the point
Oh yeah.
of the videos, to say,
I can't
here's
remember
a
how
book
we
coming out.
started with that idea. Where did the idea for the Tuesday night videos come from?
It was my idea, but there was definitely a thing that made me think, like, oh, we need to do it. Like, there was this, you know what? It was Luna. The Moon Knight book.
Sure.
Like, that was a thing that no one knew we had,
Right.
because we just put it on a shelf.
Right.
But it's a book that I loved
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to make people aware of. So that's when I'm like, we need to start doing videos that
Okay.
highlight. And, like, the focus has changed, and there are 100 things we could do to make these videos better, but all of those take time. And
And I do want to get dinner on Tuesday nights.
yeah, and we could film them better, we could edit them better, we could do so many things, but it wouldn't change the moral or the message of the video, which is, hey, here's some books you may not have known are coming out.
Yeah, I mean, above and beyond the idea of how much of my life do I want to spend packaging video content for social media platforms, which is 0. The bigger problem is just, I think that I don't know that we would excel at doing packaged content. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's not where our strengths as a store lay. Like, we can do it occasionally, but the more there's like, okay, a script and like, this is what we're going to do and whatever, it's better to just come into it organically and pitch it like you're pitching something at the counter.
Yeah.
If
Literally giving that counter experience.
If you have like a little distillation of what the book is, or if you have a little elevator pitch for who it might be for, great, fine. But, you know, rehearsing a script or whatever, like, that's not what we do at the counter. It's not that experience. So why make it into that? I don't think that's what we would do.
Well before this podcast was a thing, and I was a regular listener to the Crankcast, and I was invited to be on, and this was to talk about challengers being a thing. So this was, 15 years ago. I had not experienced how Crank and Mike Norton recorded their podcast.
Okay.
So when we sit down at microphones, and I was over at Crank's house, I think, when we were doing it live, and the first thing I said was, like, I don't know how you guys know we do this, but like, there's no script, there's no notes or no outline, like, we're just winging this episode. And Crank's like, no, that's how every episode is.
Sure.
Like, this isn't scripted content. And I'm like, oh, I legitimately did not know that.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this before on this podcast, but I've always kind of wanted to have more of a structure to Contest of Challengers, like to have not a script, but like discrete sections that we could kind of have
segments
each
that we can
week.
go back to, or
And yet, despite saying that, it's like we've never done that, and I've never been able to figure out like how to make that a thing. Like, what would the sections be, and how do we fill them each week? And it's like, I don't have.
And would you feel like they needed to be the same amount of time,
Not
like the same
necessarily.
length, or
No, things could be malleable, but there'd be things that you'd want to have. Because, like, I've listened to very few podcasts, but the ones that I do are more fandom oriented, and they have specific, like,
structure?
yeah, here's the 4 different sections that we're going to have each episode, and 1 week it could be essentially like 60, 10, 15, 5 as far as how you
Yeah.
break down the percentages, and another week it could be like 5, 90, 2, 2, 2 or whatever, but again, I don't know.
That should be the episode title: 590 222.
It's 101%.
That's what you give every episode.
Yeah, every single episode. The problem, though, is just we can barely fill like one basic idea for a given episode. So having to have different sections of like, okay, what, and we kind of have generally like in our brains like a few different topics we want to cover, not literal topics, but just like kind of industry news, store news, first looks, store events, etc. But we can't fill those every single week. Sometimes there isn't something for it, or forcing it, putting something in there where it's like, we got to talk about industry news. Okay, there wasn't any that we care about. Okay, we got to talk about it anyway. Like, why? Who cares? Jesus.
At the beginning of each year, it used to be like, oh, this week we'll talk about the top 100 comic books. Next week we'll talk about the top 100 graphic novels as far as sales for the year before.
Not anymore.
But that's also a thing that, while it's like, okay, we have content for this week, I kind of, like, you would publish the stuff on the website, and then I figured that people could just look there or what have you, when that was a thing we could do.
Yes.
We covered all that last week,
We could still publish on the website. We just don't have access to that data.
Yeah. And that's
in a way that's representative of actual sales. Like, we have access to
some data,
but it's not the data that would help
half
us.
of our, we've got 2 sales levels. We've got 3 if you count the website, but that gets rolled into subscribers, non-subscribers.
Yeah.
And then the sales data doesn't.
Yeah, the problem is we don't have access to subscriber sales for most of 2022. It's generic items, so it's like
dramatically change the structure.
Oh my god, yeah! Especially depending on some of the books, it would look like Saga sold nothing. Well, the majority of our Saga sales are to subscribers. That's 100 plus people that are not reported for any of the issues because we didn't have a way to collect that data yet. 2023, we should be able to do it year round. So hopefully, at the end of 2023, we can have something that approaches what we used to have in like 2020, where it would be a list of everything that sold, and we could break it down into different categories and so on. That's the hope anyway. We'll find out about a year from now.
Yeah. I was talking to a different retailer today about the point of sale system that they use and the subscription management they use.
Yeah.
And they're still doing Comic Suite.
Okay.
And part of me thinks, like, how would 2022 have played out if we were still at Comic Suite?
It's interesting because obviously, there were a lot of ups and downs as far as the use of Managed Comics. I like Managed Comics a lot. I like Brian a lot as a human being and as a business owner. I think he's far and away the best person we've ever worked with as far as like that end of the services we need for a comic shop to run. Certainly, they had a lot of headwinds. I think is what is usually cited in tech companies. Headwinds. Things that they never thought they'd have to deal with and did have to deal with. And then certainly things that, Shopify makes for a very interesting experience being a partner with. But at the end of the day, there were things that we needed from Managed Comics that we didn't get right away. And there were things that cost us a lot of time and effort in small and big ways. That said, not having Comic Suite means that we could more easily focus on things like online sales and online subscription management in a much more serious way than we could have if we had been yoked to both Comic Suite and Octopus. That would have been very difficult to grow that end of the business. So it was kind of a trade-off.
And I was trying to... But I mean, I think it's, in the favor of not having had it.
Yeah, even at the worst moments of like, boy, that took longer than we would have wanted to have it take to get a core element for business back. There was really never a point where I seriously considered going back to Comic Suite or RMH. Yeah. No, that was never in the cards.
A lot of it has to deal with the fact that when we had those things, the world was simpler.
Sure.
The retail, the distributor world was simpler.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons we were looking to get away from RMH and Comic Suite was because the multi-distribution model did not sit well with Comic Suite. It was tricky. It was real hard to get that stuff working right. And, even if Managed Comics wasn't exactly where we hoped it would be, it's not like Comic Suite was holding together real well. That thing was falling apart. Yeah. The retailer on almost weekly basis.
The retailer I talked to is convinced that 2023 will be the last year that it is a serviceable...
It doesn't make any sense for a company of Diamond's current size. It made a ton of sense as a way of helping them grow their business when they were the sole source for periodical comics. And now that that's far from the case, a whole point of sale system designed to integrate with Diamond's platform doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It's all of the logic behind it is outdated. They would need to completely rebuild it. And with the shrinking segment of the marketplace, they don't have the money or the infrastructure to make that viable. And I mean, Jesus, like, one of the things that we've constantly praised about Managed Comics, even in the worst of times, is that they're able to very quickly iterate on things. Comic Suite is an incredibly slow-moving beast. It took them years to move along their roadmap.
They were beta testing for forever.
Oh my God. I mean, there were things where they were like, oh, we're going to introduce basically what would turn out to be Pullbox with Comic Suite integration. And we were like, that's great. And then like 6 years later, they finally rolled it out. And it's like, I get that that's a lot to promise to get that sort of technology going, but you got to move faster than that. Like, there were so many years that we could have used that and it would have been helpful to us. And then by the time they got it, it's just like, well, now everything else in your system is broken, so who cares? With Managed Comics, you look at you know, where they were at the end of 2022, and you look at where they are now. I'm sorry, at the end of 2021, you look at where they are now at the end of 2022, and it's a substantially improved platform. It's, again, maybe not 100% of where we wanted it to be, but it is. They have patched things, they have improved things, and they have offered things. And I like that people are using it well. I mean, there's a million quality of life things that we could pass along to Managed Comics, and we definitely will when a core element of the platform is installed, which is improved FOC and initial order tools. But I know they can do it now, you know?
Yeah. We've trusted them to treat it as seriously as we do, and to work on the functionality that their customers say they want, which is not a thing we found with other possible platforms.
Here's one tiny tidbit that I'll mention in case Brian is listening. One of the things that is the most baffling to new users of Managed Comics that we found is that their subscription lists the title and the next issue number all in one line. So when you sign up to something like Where Monsters Lie,
yes,
your subscription says Where Monsters Lie #1. While people familiar with the Managed Comics platform will realize that that means the next issue you're getting is #1. To people who are brand new to it, look at that and see, oh, I'm only getting issue 1. So they go and pre-order issue 2, and then we have to email them and say, did you want 2 copies of issue 2 and then 1 copy of the other 3 issues in the subscription? And then they have to tell us, no, I'm sorry, I didn't realize what was happening.
Did you like how that guy emailed you back saying, hey, I just read your email again, and now I get it.
He did.
Please cancel the subscription.
This is a true-to-life thing that happened. And, and I do not blame the user, because it is a confusing way to impart that information, because you kind of have to realize a subscription is a recurring thing, and that next issue line will change as the new issues release. But boy, it would be so much easier if there was a parenthetical that said next issue #1, or a separate column that says what your next issue to be received is, rather than having the line of the subscription change every issue, because I think that's unnecessarily confusing to people using the platform. And some of it's brand new people who have never done a subscription before, but we've had it happen with people who have had subscriptions other places and just never used Managed Comics before. And they didn't realize, oh, that's a line that's going to change. Like we'd sometimes get from people who are new to the platform who've been subscribing to comics for 10 years, worried emails where it's like, it only says #1. I want the whole series. And it's like, no, you'll get #1 and then #2 and #3 and #4 and so on until you cancel it.
There was even an incident this week that confused me, because on anyone who subscribes to Avengers, like I do, the next issue is issue 64. But for whatever reason, it says...
It doesn't say cover A.
It doesn't say cover A. It says 1 in 100 variant.
The 100 copy virgin cover variant or something. And it's like, well, that's not what's going to get pulled for people, but I can see why they would say...
Right, but sure. I saw it. I'm like, that must be a mistake. So I deleted it from my polls and went to go find just regular Avengers, only to find out, oh no, that's the regular.
It's just a bug in the data somewhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of that is, I am so thankful that I do not have to deal with the data issues that the Managed Comics team has to deal with from Lunar and Diamond and PRH, because it's genuinely baffling how companies as big as those three are so bad at just the basic, like, there is a sequence of comics and things need to be like the codes need to be correct or the sequences don't work, and all of a sudden the whole system falls apart.
Speaking of codes and sequences, we just got an email from a subscriber asking to be signed up for Sins of Sinister.
Okay.
Which, in that instance, I assume is going to mean every miniseries and every...
I'll email them back. I mean, Sins of Sinister currently just means a one-shot.
Yeah.
But if they want the 3 miniseries, we can add them.
I assume it's...
Even though we've started ordering them. Hooray!
Yeah.
Thank you, holiday shipping schedule.
I assume it's all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new month, and it's now time to thank our Patreon supporters, including our annual patrons, Becca Hilburn and Joseph Coco, Bren Helt, Dal's mom, Diane Bush, Philip Sablik from Boom Studios, Jose Villagomez, Josh Crowley of Westfield Comics, our bestest wrestling watching pal, Michael Lee, Michael Romanenko, Mike Loveday, our patrons who have created their own tier, Andrew, Drew Troit Comics, Aaliyah, Bridget K. Neville, Chris Burton, Claudine Neville, our other generous patrons from the Say My Name pledge level, Arun Singh, Ben-Hur Benedict Calaguas, Brad Brooks from Dumb Shit Done Well, Braden, Managed Comics Own, Brian Garside, Christopher Haith, President of the Brian Garside Fan Club, Django Boren, Drew Triner and Ashley Edwards, Challengers Reservist, Fallon Mackerline, my brother, George Brower, Heidi D., Jacob Sorelli of Kamikaze, Josh Trigg, Mark Hammond of Aw Yeah Comics, Margie, Keith, Logan, and Malcolm Springham, Marcuson Nasso, Matt Armstrong, Mitchell Davies of All-Star Comics in Melbourne, Australia, Morgan Dynamite Perry, Nick Baldwin, my longtime pal Robert Burns, Ron Payne, Ryan Hecht, Sean Bowers, Tad Eggleston and Johnny Williams, Thomas Nagovin of Century Guild, Walt Grogan. And if you want to hear your name thanked on this very podcast once a month, head over to patreon.com/challengers and pledge at the $5 Say My Name level. And a big thank you to all our other patrons at the various other pledge levels. There was a fun interaction this week. A funny interaction, I guess I should say. We had a younger person in saying that they're doing a project on comic shops in the city.
Okay.
And they didn't really have any questions for us.
Nope.
But they wanted to take pictures of the wall, and that's fine.
And they wanted their picture taken with Deadpool.
Yes. And then they said, because I said, do you have any questions for us for this project? And they said, what do you think sets this store apart from other stores in the city?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've got some stock answers that we go for, and...
you went very philosophical with it.
But then, like, we never... It's the kind of question where, like, we're never going to answer a question that's like, what makes you better than other stores? We're not better than other stores. We're different from other stores.
Yeah.
Every store is different. So I was just trying to point out the things that we do that are differently. But I basically settled on, like, we want to be as welcoming as possible to every reader, lifelong readers, longtime readers, new readers. We want everyone to feel accepted.
Yep.
And we had a club member who was in line directly behind this person who then said, I've been shopping here for years. I don't feel that way. And it was a really funny line.
Uh-huh.
And then after the interview person left, I'm like, I can't believe you said that. He's like, do you think he knew I was joking? I'm like, I knew you were joking?
I don't
And
care.
it's a good joke. I don't think he knew you were joking.
No.
But it was so perfectly deadpan, like, I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
And this was somebody that we'd just been joking that had their own keys to come in at night.
Yes.
And yeah, it was a good, it reminds me of the kind of thing that I would have done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was so good.
Yeah.
Well done, Jeremy.
Uh-huh.
Well done. All right, Dal, I have here, and I feel like this is going to be pretty generic for you specifically.
Yay.
But we were approached almost a month ago by a very prestigious French institution
Bonjour.
to do an interview for their scholarly review. I don't remember what it was. Some French thing. Do you remember?
No.
You said it was a big deal.
I mean, I remember the university.
Yeah.
Is that you're asking me what the university is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like not saying that because you didn't want to be specific.
No, I was trying to make it sound as grand as possible.
The Sorbonne.
The Sorbonne wants to interview us.
Well, a student asked.
Look.
Look. The
okay?
institution, it's not like this came from like some proctor or
We
something.
don't know that.
Definitely did not.
So anyway, I finally got back to them, and because they had said, hey, I've got another batch of questions if somebody's interested more along the lines of what do certain characters mean to you and why kind of thing.
Okay.
But I basically said, hey, we've ignored this for 3 weeks. Do you still want us to do it? And they haven't gotten back to us yet. But I figured,
Mais no.
maybe. But I figured maybe we would just do it now verbally.
Okay.
So if they do want it,
I can't do all my answers in French, just so you know.
you could just do it with a
3 years of French between middle school and high school is not going to get me very far at this
I took
age.
2 years of French in college, so expect nothing better from me either. So these are fairly generic questions,
Okay.
and
We're good with those.
part of them is they're translated in, or they did them in English, but verb tenses and things change. So
Okay.
I will try to ask what I
Well,
think they're asking.
We're marble-mouthed idiots, so I'm sure we're going to get it wrong anyway.
We definitely are.
We're not that great with the English languages.
We definitely are. Number one, you can write down at 29:37 is when we started this on the raw audio.
Or radio, if you will.
I will not. I will never.
I think it's going to catch on.
Which kind of customer you have in your comic book store? Male, female, young, middle age? Yes, all of them.
Yeah, it's two things. For us, it's geographic, where we have a lot of families. We're in a neighborhood. We don't get a lot of, commuter traffic or whatever. It's mostly people who live in the neighborhood and then, stop by the store.
Yeah.
In the nicer months, which means not minus 25 with the wind chill, we'll have a lot of people that are kind of out walking in the neighborhood. We're off the 606, so that gets us a lot of people that might be in adjoining neighborhoods that will just walk through Bucktown to get coffee or something, and then they'll find a comic shop.
I spent all day walking through Hyde Park today, visiting a bunch of bookstores and First Aid Comics and coffee shops.
Did you tell Nando's that I missed them?
We
and
were
that I
not,
love them very much?
We didn't walk on 53rd, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So I would have had we passed them, but we didn't.
Okay.
This was like University of Chicago area. And,
Sure.
it was basically plein air and the... I just lost the word. Lost it again. The bookstore attached to them, which is a...
Powell's?
Well, no, Powell's is under the same umbrella, and we did go to Powell's.
Okay.
But the not seminary, not commissary. Anyway, so those.
Okay.
And we stopped by 57th Street Books, but they were closed.
Um,
No, that's 57th Street Books is also part of... Anyway, so yes, I, as someone who had just done that
Who has walked a neighborhood
today,
in Chicago.
on a gorgeous day. Oh man, like the sun wasn't out, but the temperature, it was 50s. I wore the wrong coat. I was
Yeah.
sweating all day.
Yeah.
When we stopped back here, I changed my coat, which was a little awkward because then we were both in denim, but still.
had to open my front door to get dinner from a delivery person. It was like, I did not need to wear a coat into the lobby. I just opened the door and took the bag and said thank you.
But anyway, I cut you off because you're talking about people walking by, exploring neighborhoods.
So there's that element of it, but as far as like our regular customer subscribers, majority adult, vast majority adult.
Do you want to put an age group on those?
I would say mid-20s to early 50s.
Okay.
I know it's a very large range, but that's the best I can do right now. As far as a male-female split, majority male, but not overwhelmingly so. 65-35.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically who's shopping at our store.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate breakdown.
So. That's like a back-of-the-envelope sort of math. I don't really have hard data that I can point to.
Do you have female and LGBTQ clients? If you do they represent a significant part of the customers? So, yes.
Yes to the first part.
And yes to the female part. And yes, we do have LGBTQ clients. Yes, we have trans clients. we don't know everyone's orientation,
true.
so we can't give a representation percentage.
Yeah, somewhere between 1 and 100%.
Yeah, I definitely
Somewhere in there.
think that as more people feel that it's socially acceptable to broadcast what they
Well,
identify with.
I mean, beyond that, there's just some people don't want to have that aspect of their lives part of their comic shopping experience.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
so,
Like, I wouldn't expect, the people at IKEA to know my sexuality. It's irrelevant to me shopping for furniture at
they
IKEA.
can tell by what you buy.
Yeah, they probably can.
So this is I actually wanted to start the podcast this way, and I forgot.
Okay, good.
And I may edit this and put it in the front because I feel like as the start of a new year, we just kind of want to kind of remind people of like our mission statement and what we're about. And Challengers was started almost 15 years ago by two cisgendered, straight, middle-class white men
Yes.
who grew up reading comic books that constantly catered to them. So there was never a question of
Because most of them were made by cisgendered, straight,
Middle-class
white
white
men.
right. So we never worried about finding books that represented who we were because everything was for us.
Yeah.
In this day and age, the diversity of characters and creator is not only great to see, but welcome.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of places to go, but as those two people, and I'm speaking for you as well, we welcome anybody who wants to read comics
Sure.
to an extent.
What's the extent, Patrick?
The extent is people that are openly and blatantly misogynistic, people who are like there was a Christmas Eve, there was an older white male misogynist who was just
It was weird.
going off.
I mean, I wouldn't say going off. It was a weird conversation. Whereas basically somebody, and I haven't watched the Sandman TV show, but it's somebody who's watched the Sandman show and was kind of upset about John Constantine not being in it in favor of Jenna Coleman's
Joanna Constantine. Yeah.
And what it seemed like, for me, being on the receiving end of it, it seemed like it was starting from a place of like genuine curiosity. Like, why would they do that? And it's like me trying to explain, like, well, they probably wanted to go a different way, that they wanted to bring in a different kind of character and they wanted to modernize it a bit, and
Or they didn't want to conflict with the Keanu Reeves
I
movies.
was going to say,
Sorry. Okay.
that, and then additionally, like, maybe they just felt like, John Constantine isn't integral to the Sandman story, so they could add different elements that maybe could bring out a different kind of story that they could prolong or go a different direction with. But all of these things were just, he was just like, no, but why would they make it a woman? And it was like, oh, this is the conversation we're having. And it wasn't somebody who like came in, fire and brimstone or whatever. And I think because it was two men behind the counter, he felt a little more comfortable to be able to be.
But he was really trying to get us to agree with him.
And I wouldn't, because I don't.
Of course you don't. now,
It's stupid.
now the
It's a
difference
stupid
is,
outlook.
I'm just like, this guy sucks, and I walked away.
Yeah.
You kept talking, and you weren't giving him anything, but you were trying to make him say, there's reasons for what they do.
Yeah, that it's the idea of like they hate you and they want to push an agenda or whatever is such an incredibly stupid, very online brain sort of outlook. And it's like, no, come on. Like, this is the real world and you understand how it works. You can, play at willful ignorance to try and push some sort of like hatred, but come on, man. Like, you get it.
But comics are for everybody, and we want everybody to love comics, and
Sure.
that's we try to showcase that in everything Challengers does, and we don't care who you love, who you worship, who you follow online, so long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's a thing that I don't know that it should have any impact on your ability to read comics or get comics sold to you. Like, it's
who we
weird
don't-
that people like that there's a world where that's not a given. Like, that's super weird to me.
We care if you are trying to hurt our business, if you're trying to steal from us, if you're constantly trying to cover up our Black Lives Matter sign from the outside.
Yeah, that's weird. Quit doing that.
To this, I don't understand a world in which other people care so much about the things people believe that don't matter to them at all.
Yeah.
If you are, I'm not going to go down that path, but it's not.
I hope people feel welcome at Challengers.
Yes, and that's we want them to feel welcome,
Sure.
and sometimes I feel like we don't do
every aspect of our business on nearly every axis is built around the idea of trying to make it a place that feels welcoming to people. And that goes into all of our decision making for all of our stuff. The events we run, the messaging we have online, the ways that we lay things out in the store. One of the things that is very important to me specifically is making sure that we have a store that's largely accessible to folks coming in, regardless of their ability to navigate a space.
As a larger person myself, I've been in plenty of comic stores where I'm like, I can't go down that aisle.
Yeah, I've seen stores where aisles are so narrow that you couldn't like fit like a wheelchair down it, and that's like, I don't like that. That's definitely something we try and have where the store can be experienced by the largest amount of people possible.
We had said earlier when we started this questionnaire that we don't feel that we're better than anybody else. That's a lie. We definitely feel that our store is better than a lot of stores. We just don't say that with stores.
You can't
like,
say it.
I've got a friend who...
Talk to me at a conference or a convention and I'll really give you my honest answer.
But I'm
not going to go on a podcast and say, like, other stores are garbage.
Right. I've got a friend who finds such positive things to say about every store they go to. And I'll be like, really, that store? And I think it's okay to come off being like, hey, our store is great. Because if we don't, what are we doing?
Yeah, you should absolutely take some pride in your own business. God, I hope you do.
But we're also never going to stop trying to do better and trying to make the store better for people.
Yeah.
And that includes you who are listening.
Yeah.
And there is no idea we're not going to listen to no matter who brings it to us. We may be able to say quickly, like, oh, we don't think this will work because of this.
Yeah.
We may say, we've already tried it, it doesn't work.
Yep.
But we appreciate the ideas, and I ask people all the time, hey, what do you want? What would you do in your perfect comic store? Listeners may remember back in October, the last time Haley was on, I asked her what would be like the Haley comic shop, and she specifically said, well, what would I do to run the best store, or what is the best store for me as a person? Like, if she were curating a store for herself, it'd be vastly different than a store that she would run to make money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciated that distinction.
I mean, there's definitely a, like, you know, who would you have dinner with, living or dead, sort of answer that I think a lot of people give to the, like, what would your ideal comic shop be? And it's like, no. Understand you have a budget, and understand that you have to make money, and that you have to staff a store, and so on. Like, I mean, there's the store that we have right now that we have to grapple with economic realities. But then there's a version where it's like, if I won the lottery and was opening a store, like, well, shit, yes, it would.
Oh yeah,
it would look very different. Yes,
and we've said this so many times before. The Patrick only comic book shop would be so different than the Dow only comic book shop.
I like that you stopped yourself from saying better, even though you wanted to.
I didn't. And the two of those stores separately would be, I mean, nowhere near as successful as Challengers is.
I would have to pay so much money to handymen
to build all the things you want to do.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, just all the stuff
fair.
that you do.
Oh, I see. Oh, wow, thank you. I didn't realize that was a compliment.
All of the, like, I don't know how to fix this. Oh, Patrick knows how to fix that.
There's a couple of projects that are just a little beyond me, or things that in my youth I'd be like, I can tackle this.
The lights?
Yeah. There was a time when I first met Fallon, who helped, he filled in a couple times during the pandemic. Fallon, who's been a good friend of mine for a while. There was a project that I'm like, hey, I need to change this light fixture. It's a live light that I can't turn off. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do all the work, if you see me get electrocuted, you have to pull me off of this wire.
Did you give him like a broom handle or something? So
He had something plastic to, yeah.
Jesus.
Because I'm pretty sure, because I couldn't turn off the power, but the
Sure.
fixture had to get changed.
Uh-huh.
Everything went fine.
Uh-huh.
But
Clearly you're still here.
But it's that kind of a situation for our lights.
Yeah.
And
No, I mean, there's circuits in the back we could turn off.
there's 3 lights that don't turn off.
They're like in the building's power?
Yeah.
Weird.
Those lights that stay on, when we turn off all the switches, those are the ones that stay on all night.
No, but I mean, I always figured like
They
there
are
was...
not on our fuses.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, our circuits do not cut those.
That's a problem then.
Also, when Fallon and I did this, I could stand on the ground and reach the light. These are way up top.
You have the big ladder now.
I do, but the big ladder is too big, so I can't get to the platform I need to stand on. I always have to stand on 1 step lower.
Oh, interesting.
You'd have to stand like 2 or 3 steps down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we just bring in like an air mattress so when you get electrocuted and fly off the ladder, you land
So you don't
in
know what
that?
direction I'm going to go in.
I guess you get multiple air mattresses then. We'll just sort of...
This is impossible for me to edit now and put in the front. So I don't know if I'll do it. But I really wanted to start the episode with the statement of, if you don't feel we're welcoming, please tell us what we're not doing.
It'll be a nice little New Year's surprise for people when they get this far back in the podcast.
Sure. I just thought it'd be nice to like start it with like, hey, here it is. But I don't know. Yeah, we're always trying to get better, and every
We're
change,
always learning.
Yeah, and we'll never stop learning, and that's
I
one
hope.
of the things.
Jesus.
That's why we surround ourselves with progressively younger and younger people, because our tastes may not change, but the market does.
Yeah.
Okay, so question 3: do you have
Trois.
new clients, or is it mostly regular people?
Oh, now you're being culturally insensitive, Patrick.
Mais non.
Well,
Do you
I'm
have
sorry,
new
what was
clients?
the question?
Do you have some new
my-
clients, or is it mostly regular people? It's. I don't think I quite understand what they're asking.
Yeah, je ne comprends pas. I think basically what they're saying is it like recurring people or is it new customers?
I think the answer is yes to both.
Yeah, I mean the majority I would say is recurring. Like our subscription service is very large and growing all the time. which
But
is great.
every single week we get, how long have you been here?
Yeah, right. I mean, it depends on the day. Like that's the thing. Like you come in on a Wednesday, I would say the majority of our traffic is going to be recurring.
Yeah.
It's people we see every Wednesday, every new release day. But Saturdays in like the summertime, you might be 50-50. You know, regular subscribers or regular Saturday folks mixed with people who have never seen the store before or, you know, discovering it for the first time.
Man, look at all the salt on these pants. Come on.
But yeah, I mean, the ideal for an independently owned bookstore like us is to have even non-subscribers be people who come in regularly, even if regularly is like 3 times a year. Like, I'd like them to keep finding us when they need comic books.
If you have new customers, what kind of person are they, and how do you help them to make a selection?
Well, they're all very smart and attractive people because they found us.
Yes.
Different people need different amounts of help. Some folks come in and they immediately have questions. Help me find a specific book.
The simple answer is just by talking to them.
Yeah, and this is a topic that I hope we've covered before in depth. You're trying to be of as much assistance as someone requires. You don't want to insert yourself into a situation where they don't need your help or you're shadowing them too much or whatever.
Yeah.
So some people, again, can just come in, they want to browse the store, they want to try and find something. You let them know you're available if they need you, and then you step back. Some people, though, they walk in and it's, I need this book, or where's this section, or I've been enjoying X, help me find Y, whatever. And yeah, it's obviously there's not, a one-size-fits-all experience as far as, it's not working on like a car lot, People need different things and are experiencing the store in a different way. They got to go on their journey, Patrick.
Which superheroes comic books do you sell the most? Batman.
Is Alana a superhero? Yeah, Batman, for sure. Batman is a larger publisher than the rest of DC.
Yeah. Do you sell superhero comic books with lead female character? Which ones do you sell? All of them.
Yep.
I don't know if they want a list of every ongoing
What
major.
do you think is the best-selling female superhero ongoing comic that we have right now?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
Thank you.
Gosh. So you wouldn't call like Fantastic Four because it's not a lead female
Correct.
super character.
I'm talking name and the title.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is the most well-known, but Wonder Woman comics sell for garbage, so it's not that.
But I mean, like, it's not Harley Quinn. It's not Wonder Woman.
Nope.
It's not Captain Marvel.
Yeah, probably not. Catwoman, maybe?
Those are all roughly the same numbers. For
Yeah,
the most
exactly.
part.
Catwoman with a bit of an edge on that, but not a lot.
Like Storm and the Brotherhood will do really well for us, but that doesn't count.
No. I'm sure there's one that I'm just overlooking.
Yeah, this is a question that I need to walk the
You need
shelves
to
to look at.
Shelves for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the Marvel and DC stuff that's been coming out and think like what's the female title character book that does the best? Yeah, I'm not sure what the Marvel one would be right now. I mean, Captain Marvel probably, right?
Hey, it would have been Hawkeye, maybe? But for that miniseries?
Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
Ms. Marvel isn't selling super great.
no. And if you looked at Captain Marvel numbers, they're marginally higher than Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But by, like, this many.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black Widow did pretty well for us,
It did okay.
but it got canceled.
It did. It also got canceled. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I would really need to look at the shelves because I'm sure there's like a key answer that like Sunday I'll be at the store and I'll be like, oh God, that. Yeah, of course. Jesus.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is right now.
But it's a little bit, it's an indictment of the industry that we can't automatically think of it.
That it doesn't jump to my brain, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, some of that is also, I mean, it's an indictment of the industry in the sense of like, there's a bunch of books that got canceled because they weren't selling great. And again, like
Batgirls,
Batgirls is, you're in that Wonder Woman range.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
they're all the same range.
yeah, DC books in general, like if it's not Batman, it's not selling great. And the non-Batman books like Batgirls and Catwoman, they don't sell super great.
Punchline just dead out of the water.
Yeah, no one cared. She-Hulk is our best-selling female-led book.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's also great. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Takashi Miyazawa came in for an arc. How great is that?
I like that you tricked me a couple weeks ago. You're like,
Andre Genolette, who did the art on Rainbow Rowell's Runaways, is coming on as the next arcs
okay,
artist.
that's what you said. I thought
Super
you were
excited.
trying to be okay.
Oh
never
boy.
mind.
But yeah, 2 Runaways artists in a row.
So the last question, I'm not sure I understand it. I think they mean publishers. What do you think production have to do to expand the audience of superhero comic books? Number one, have a clear idea of who you're marketing to and express that to your retail partners so we have an idea of where to present these books.
Yeah, I mean, a corollary for that is that less is more.
I was going to say, number two, make less of them.
Yeah, I think it'd be better for a publisher like Marvel to have one Avengers book that sells 125% of what Avengers sells now than 3 Avengers books that sell collectively maybe around that number. I would much rather have there be more strength, I guess, to some of the bigger franchises, because that means that when you do decide to do a spin-off, it's a rare occasion that gets a lot of eyeballs.
A freakish occurrence.
Thank you. Rather than like, oh, there's another Batman book, or oh, there's another Avengers book, or whatever. Because there is obvious diminishing returns to all that stuff. The more Spider-Man books you put out, the less they all sort of sell, because there's too many choices and people start to get split up. But if it's Amazing Spider-Man, people buy Amazing Spider-Man. You know?
Yeah, it's not like there's people that are reading Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man that aren't reading Amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, there probably is, now that I said it.
Well, I mean, I would disagree. I think it's the majority of the people who would read a spin-off title are probably the people who are also reading the main one, which I guess is why publishers do it, because that's the math on that is that you can't sell people necessarily 2 copies of Amazing Spider-Man, but you can sell Amazing Spider-Man and Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man. But it's like the amount of people that you're turning off, though, who look at the wall of Spider-Man comics and go, I don't know what to read.
Yeah.
Has got to be offsetting the people that you are double selling. I can't think it's working out in their favor, or the sales numbers would be better. They're not, so it must not be working.
I think maybe our best-selling female comic book is Exterminators, but that's not naming the title.
Right. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but
That book is so fun.
I think She-Hulk outsells it. She-Hulk
Okay.
has a lot of subscribers because it's real good.
Yeah, it's real good. Well, that was the end of the French questionnaire.
Finny.
Your French was very good.
Thank you. I don't get to trot it out a whole lot anymore.
Je ne parle pas français, so I can't even be part of it. Inevitably, I get asked what I'm looking forward to as far as publications go in the new year, and
I believe you'll be having a conversation with one of your journalism friends about that fairly soon.
yeah, I have. I really got to start working on that Publishers Weekly questionnaire as well. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this in here, to start kicking my head into that mindset.
March alone has some stuff I'm incredibly excited about. I was not super dialed in on the new Jeff Lemire, Gabriel Hernandez Walta book.
Yeah.
Which I gotta look up what the name of that book was.
Well, because it's like a grindhouse horror thing, which is a way to tell Dal not to read a book.
No, horror in comics I don't mind. I don't love it necessarily, but it's not like a genre I shy away from like I would in a movie. But it just sounds really cool. It's a truck driver finds a woman who's on the side of the road after in a car accident, and a monster attacked her and who she was in the car with, and then now the truck driver and the woman who survived have to like basically go on this trip and through a weird nightmarish landscape. And Gabe Walta's stuff I love. I think Vision is such a visually appealing Marvel comic, and Jeff Lemire keeps coming up with weird, creepy ideas that are very fun to explore. So that book, I'm going to look up the title because I wish I could remember the name. I want people...
Let's call it...
People will be getting an email.
Sentient.
Will have already gotten an email by the time they hear this podcast.
With it in there.
And
it's
so
funny
go to your email.
When I was going through the books I wanted to highlight, or like the ones I wanted to recommend for that, and I'm like, oh, that one. Like, no, I have too many books. Let me take it off. So I cut it down by one.
Sure.
And didn't actually have it on the list. But when I was looking ahead to 2022, things like Ducks or the Zoe Thorogood memoir, those weren't even on my radar. I didn't know if those were existing. Like,
sure.
You can look ahead to Penguin Random House that will lay out publishing for like the year, but none of it really resonates as a thing that's coming out. When The Sculptor was a book that was coming out in February of whatever year it came out in, we had already read a galley and been like, yeah, this is going to be great. But now we get previews and have to sift through all the chaff
yes.
to try to find what's going to stand out. And it's harder and harder each month because there's so much more stuff. We talked last week about how the Marvel and DC catalogs are just bursting with content. And I was talking to Haley today about the Six Gun.
Phantom Road, by the way. That's the Jeff Lemire.
Phantom Road.
And
about how the Six Gun was a book that was a success for us because we read it and loved it and championed it. And now the market is too flooded for us to have that kind of an impact with any book. I mean, we're trying it with Where Monsters Lie by promoting it everywhere we can because we really like it.
I would like It's Jeff to outsell Saga. If you guys can make that happen, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah?
Very excited about It's Jeff.
But that's a very specific audience. Anyone who loves life.
Yeah, exactly. People with two working eyeballs. Or even one. It's a comic book. You don't need depth perception. One working eyeball. You can enjoy It's Jeff.
And just a tongue to be able to turn a page.
Yeah, or have a friend turn the page for you because people who read It's Jeff naturally have friends.
They're
good people.
Popular.
Yes.
Yeah. They get compliments often.
Yeah, I mean, that March catalog, we internally joked about how many of the Marvel books seem to have almost zero audience. But, like, there's big-name stuff like Doctor Strange, I think, is super exciting.
I think that's the biggest Marvel book for the month.
Easily.
Not counting It's Jeff, because that's a category by itself.
Yeah, for sure. But then DC's got Unstoppable Doom Patrol with art by Chris Burnham that looks great. Image has got the Night Fever hardcover, which is a new one by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Yeah. They got Phantom Road by Jeff Lemire and Gabe Walta. They got Forged, which is co-written by Greg Rucka. And then they've got Ambassadors, which is the new Mark Miller thing with the first issue drawn by Frank Whiteley.
Yeah, A-list artist every issue.
Like, that's a killer lineup.
For Night Fever, do you think it will sell better, worse, or the same as Reckless?
The same.
I think so, too. Like, I already have a number in my head of what we're going to order, which I wish we could get more... I don't know. Reckless sells great for us.
People keep discovering Reckless. So, like, we'll see with Night Fever if that goes up or if the next Reckless goes up or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, we continuously sell the first few volumes of Reckless.
Yeah.
Continuously.
So it's difficult to know like what's really coming out. I can tell you that I'm very excited for. I'm going to say it right now. Winery Dogs 3 is probably going to be my album of the year for 2023.
Okay.
But also, there's a new Louis Capaldi album coming out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new Winger album coming out.
Okay.
These are all things that I will play to death in the next year.
Sure.
I already have concert tickets for Winery Dogs and for Louis Capaldi, and a Sarah Millican makeup show. And this is all just through March, like up to March. We have more events planned now for the next 3 months. Not even counting a phantom April one because we don't have a date for it.
Right.
But yeah, we have so many things that we just. Because things are falling into place, and they're books that we want to get behind, and they include Local Man with Tim Seeley because we like Local Man, and a Dan Johnson event, a Ryan Brown event, Stephanie Phillips who's coming up, the celebration of Sidekick's 10th anniversary, Challengers 15th anniversary party, which we've already got a couple of
sponsors.
Yeah, bigger things like our last anniversary party was 10, and we went all out.
We did. Tuxes.
Yeah. I don't think we're doing tuxes this year.
No, it's okay.
10 is a good year.
We did it.
Tuxes.
It was fun.
Yeah, maybe 25 tuxes. I don't know.
Sure. Caskets.
Well, one anyway. Whatever you and Molly Jane want to do is fine with me. But yeah, like we've already got, and it's the reason we're doing these events is because these are all properties or people we want to get behind.
Yes.
And that level of enthusiasm for the comic book landscape is something that we didn't necessarily have at the start of 2020. Like, there weren't things... Like, our first event for the year, I think, was the sale.
For...
2022.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I said 2020. You're
that's
right.
why I was getting confused.
You're right, sorry. I keep forgetting the two part of it.
Sure. Yeah, I don't remember. I think... Definitely for the beginning of 2022, I think there's still some skepticism as to whether or not interior events could be...
Our first big event was the Saga Midnight release.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
Right.
I don't think of midnight releases as specifically being, big events because they take less than an hour.
Yeah. Fair.
I think an event needs to be at least 2 hours long to be an event. But I think there's still some skepticism as to whether or not it was a good idea to do interior events. And then eventually the world decided, yeah, I guess it's okay.
Today, while I was out bookstore shopping and comic shopping, I had reason to call Challengers. So I called Challengers. First of all, Molly Jane did not know who I was until I threatened to fire her.
You called her from your cell phone, right?
Yeah.
So it should have said your name on it.
I think it just says... It does. I don't think it says the names on our...
Maybe it does.
Yeah. Yes, she should have it memorized. She's like, you don't sound like you. I'm like, well, I'm indoors, so you finally get my indoor voice.
As opposed to your car or outdoor voice.
Right. But, like, in Challenger's voice is also not indoor voice. But do you know who was in Challengers at the time that I called?
I hope Molly Jane.
Yes, and?
Stella?
And?
No idea.
Colt Cabana.
Boom Boom, Colt Cabana.
Paloma Star.
Oh, how nice.
Right?
Were they picking more copies of their book?
They were trading signatures on the books.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, they chose to meet up there.
Very cool.
So I'm like, well, give Colt the phone.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as she's handing me the phone, I get a text from him
saying that he's at this
with a photo of the cardboard Dal cutout, and he said, "I thought that was Barack Obama."
I get that a lot.
In person, definitely.
That's true.
So on the phone, he pitched an event.
Okay.
As
cool.
well.
I will work with Colt whenever he wants. The thing that we always have a problem with is that we can't deliver on the space that he needs.
It's not a podcast recording.
No, I know, but I'm just saying in the past.
Yeah.
Like there have been plenty of times where we've wanted to work with Colt, but it's like, you are too much of a draw. We can't make that happen here.
Yeah.
We are a small bookstore. There's only so much space we have.
So I told him we'll talk about his schedule and we'll try to figure out a way to... And it's going to take a little work on our end to get it to be what he's thinking of.
Okay.
but I think it's actually a unique Challengers Colt Cabana event.
If Colt wants to do it, I'm sure it's unique.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's things that are lining up that really make me excited to be who we are.
That's great.
Because a lot of people don't do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, again, I was talking today to someone else about how a lot of events we do for, just to say we did it. We don't do it for the payoff.
Yeah, I mean, the experience sometimes is fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So there's a lot of that coming up, but with just, it could be a good year.
I hope so. I always hope it's
I
good.
hope, you and I filmed a very dumb video for New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I ended it saying, get ready for comics' greatest year ever. And I meant to say, to date.
Nope, 2023 is
Hey,
it.
you know what?
If
That's it, let's go out strong, brother.
a straight ride to
Let's
the
go out
bottom in
strong.
2024.
Thank you for being a part of what we do. Thank you for listening to this podcast and for accepting it into your routine. Thank you to the people that respond to it regularly and the people that just listen to it and never say a word. Like, we have not crazy numbers, but we have healthy numbers that, I mean, let's face it, if it was more than 10, you and I would both be like, who's listening to this?
Yeah, I mean, I only have so many family members.
Right?
Yeah.
And I know mine don't listen. Prove me wrong, George. I'm kidding. Of course I'm kidding. So it always blows our mind, especially when we talked earlier about how unstructured this all is. Mm-hmm. But hey, we had a quiz to go through today. So not a quiz, but a thing to go through.
To which I say, merci.
And now that I carry around my reasons why I hate my job notebook to take notes during the week, I don't necessarily feel we're getting any better with what we do on this podcast.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, listener, finding value. Happy New Year. Thank you in advance for joining us through all of the ridiculous nonsense we bring you in 2023. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics for at least one more year.
The best year comics will ever have.
Period.
Also, don't forget, we've been bringing comics to the masses since 2008. Or for 15 years, whatever I said it was. It's on a flyer.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.